Recently, I've got into the habit of watching old talent shows from the 1970s. Here in the UK, we had a thing called New Faces, and it was the equivalent of Britain's Got Talent. You could go on with any type of talent. You could be a singer or a comedian or a magician and all sorts of things. Many people that went on New Faces, I'm thinking of Lenny Henry would be one. I think Little and Large would be another comedy duo that came up through New Faces and found stardom. So it did work. It did find talent. The talent show goes right back to Huey Green and Opportunity Knocks. This idea that someone has a chance to showcase how wonderful they are by standing up in front of an audience and being put to the test so you can see how talented they are. And often the general public play a part in this. Now, of course, in the old days, the people who won these talent shows won because it was rigged. The old clapometer was just somebody turning a dial behind. And the person that they wanted to win was the one that the dial was turned up on. And it would be often be some starlet that was paying services to some people in power to enable the knob to be turned just that little bit further. But there was a revolution, wasn't there? There was a revolution around about 20, 25 years ago. And what happened is that these talent shows suddenly became centre stage. And since then, on mainstream media, they have formed the summit of entertainment. The absolute summit. Saturday nights, you're going to sit down and watch a talent show and judge who's the best singer. Now, the history of who changed this is a bit of a silly one, but people try to say, oh, did Simon Cowell invent this, or was it Simon Fuller who invented it? But what's interesting is a lot of the managers that were a bit of the sort of lower end of the market in the 90s, they were trying to put girl bands and boy bands together, people that could be easily manipulated, where there was a lot of money, where the management really could just get the right song right and control it. They didn't have to deal with a bunch of drugged up working class yobs that were just writing whatever they wanted. And the industry was happy with that. And so management started to put these bands together. Here in the UK, we had the likes of Westlife, E17, the Spice Girls, who else? All of these. In America, you're on NSYNC and all, a whole bunch of other ones. Sort of taking the idea of, the Motown thing, which is exactly the same thing where you've got the Supremes or whatever. And so a lot of the people who went into these sort of talent shows in the early 2000s had a background in that. And what I noticed was that the way that they were pushing these acts, these little girl and boy bands, or these little, like, pop stars that they were trying to manage, it was through television. You could put an artist on the radio, but if you create something designed to go to youth, they need to be able to see it before they hear it. The Spice Girls were a brilliant example because each one was almost like an action doll. They got their own name and they had their own sort of like Charlie's Angels superpower almost. One was sporty, one was posh, one was old. Was there an Old Spice, or am I getting confused? I thought that was Jerry Halliwell. No, she was Ginger Spice, wasn't she? Not Old Spice. That's a very old joke, but I brought it back on the channel, so that's okay. So you had to see these people. I mean, the Spice Girls at the peak of their powers made a film, and it got bloody Roger Moore in it. Has anyone even mentioned this film? I mean, they're bringing back Slade in Flame, and Mark Kermode is saying it's the Citizen Kane of 70s rock musicals. I'm thinking, no, it's not. That's Stardust with David Essex. Anyway, another video altogether, but a fun video nonetheless. I wish I was doing that one, but I'm not. I'm doing this one where I'm going to drag my knowledge through the gutter of these big league talent shows that emerged 20 years ago. And I'm going to tell you why I still think they're rigged, because the fact that they are rigged is interesting, because I believe the fact that they were so successful is because they weren't rigged. This is a much more interesting story than you think. Well, I hope it is, or you we'll think it's a boring story and you'll switch on to something else. But now I am just treading water at the 5-minute mark, and this is the point where the introduction has happened and now we go into the full story. So these sort of low-level managers that are really managing pop crud, especially here in the UK, they have to market through television. It's those contacts that are label them. They've got contacts in the media, right? So they can get them to jump on, breakfast TV or something and sing their cruddy song. And that's how they do it. Then suddenly somebody has an idea at somewhere that why don't you just get somebody off the TV, and then that's it. They're been off the TV, so everyone's going to watch it anyway. And this is the great breakthrough that we had here in the UK. The UK's got a lot to answer for this. But they've done it in America as well. But I think the Stock Aitken and Waterman manoeuvre to then start signing up soap stars was an interesting move. Now, at some point, Simon Cowell, who'd been managing, cruddy pop acts like Dead or Alive and stuff like that, at some point, someone made him aware, and I know the person who did it, but he was made aware of a TV show that had these two characters. I can't remember what the TV show was. I think they were like firemen or something. And there was a bit in the plot where they had to get up and sing, I think it was You Never Walk Alone, or some sort of cod emotional song like that. And it was part of the storyline, and it was, everyone had a tear in their eye. And Robson and Jerome, the two actors that weren't pop stars, there was a realisation that if they were to now put that track out as a single, the job's done. It will go to #1. And Simon Cowell signed them up, and he put that single out, and it did go to #1. All right? We don't even know whether those guys actually sung on the actual single. We don't know what they were involved. It just does not matter. People wanted to buy a bit of that television. And there's a light bulb moment, I think, at that point where, hang on, the industry's going down a certain place, downloads coming in, we're not going to be able to make the money off the chart or anything like that. But here, what we can do is move our process of being basically A&R and management. We'll open that up and we'll put it in front of the people. So that becomes the plot. Robson, Jerome have had their hit single because people have followed the story. Let's put the story up. New faces never did this. Someone would just work out and perform. There was a breakthrough at some point. It happens with the 2000s, and it's Simon Fuller and Simon Cowell, and it comes out of, I think, the UK scene in this sort of cruddy, bottom of the barrel, real like childish pop music end of it, right? And what happened was they thought, we can just do what we do. So if we get a few of these sort of types on, they can stand there and act like A&R. Now, or management. Now, management don't sit behind a table and sit and judge and stroke their chins and go, I think we've got talent. This is like a cliche. It doesn't work like that. People work in the industry, so they get contacts, they get known by someone, a track gets passed to someone checks them out, they're on their radar, then they do something else, they get more noticed by that, they get the relationship built up, and before you know, someone saying, I think we can do something with that person, well, let's try something out. That's how it goes, that's how it actually goes, and people are often involved, they're already in there to be in it, right? This idea that there's some sort of plinth you stand on and you do your thing, and then everyone goes, oh my God, and I call this Cinderella theory. It's this idea that is in the industry that people have got this innate talent, and just by exposing it to the world, the powers that be will come along like a fairy godmother, and you've got Simon Cowell, the fairy godmother of fame, and he does his magic wand, and all the glitter comes out, and that person's going to be famous. And that's what they sold. But the cleverness was to put the, new faces and opportunity to had always had that table of experts saying their thing. But they opened it up to the story. And the story was this. They're doing auditions. They're looking for the next star. Where's the next star? I don't know. Should we go up to Norwich and see if there's a new star there? Let's go up to Start. There, look at the queues. This is how the story opens up. We're looking for talent. There's all these queues coming. And then goes into a dark room. It's the inner sanctum. And the experts are all there. And somebody comes in. What's your name? My name's Jeff. What do you do? I'd like to be a singer, please. Well, sing us a song. And they stand there and they look the part. But when they open their mouth, it's terrible. And the audience go, oh my God, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Somebody who can't sing. Now, I can't sing. But if I start singing now, you're not going to all laugh your head off. The reason why we're laughing is because we know that that person thinks they can sing and they can't. And that's funny because they've got a certain pomposity. And then when somebody turns around and says, well, you're not very good, they're like, no, what do we? That's all very funny. Or you can be Susan Boyle and walk in and look like not look that great. Sorry, Susan. She looks better now. She's got a bit of money. Who's this old bat standing up to sing? And then she can open her mouth. Oh my God, there's a story here. She looked like an old bat and I only thought that good-looking people could sing. I don't get it. What's happening? My world's been blown. So that was the story. And then when you find this person, oh my God, this person is talented. I know. But the thing is, my mum's got no head. Oh my God, she got no head. Yes, I wasn't able to follow my dream of being a singer. Because I thought it was too ugly. That doesn't matter anymore. My mum's got no head. Don't worry about that. It doesn't matter if your mum's got no head. I know, but we have to feed it down the dick. I wish I didn't have this surrealist view of the world, but I have, and that's what you have to put up with on a video like this. So, before we were feeding the mum down the neck hole. So, let's try it out. And so we'll take these people. And you remember in the old days, this is where it was really cool. Right? Now, I've got quite a little bit of inside knowledge on this one. I don't want to say where, but I have. This is why I'm here, imparting a bit of inside knowledge. I was told the idea came from this, that one of the guys that invented this form, probably called Simon, was on a talent show. And of course, it was an old-fashioned talent show. It was fixed, They were probably seeing some young lady and they said, don't worry, we'll put that to you, you're going to win. And what happened is that in the middle of that, he noticed that if you actually let the audience choose, so it could have been this girl was actually really good. It was something like this, something where they became aware that if the audience are really voting for it, it's great television. And so you've got this story. People come in, they're all rubbish, that's very funny. You find someone with actual talent, but they've got a sad story. This could be that this is like Cinderella. They could have that glass slipper on if they can get through this. But we're going to follow them and they're going to be given challenges. Are they going to be able to get through the challenges? Are they brave? Are they able to, like Frodo Baggins, go towards the what's that big cave? What's it that they have to drop the bloody rings into it? What's that? In Mordor, there's a big cave, isn't it? That cave, mountain with volcano inside it. You know that one? And they got to drop the thing in there, haven't they? And you got to keep going, or all the orcs are trying to get, and that's what it's like on a Saturday night. They got all the orcs there, but the orcs aren't orcs. It's Simon Cowell or Nasty Nigel or that Irish bloke that used to manage Westlife. And they're going to come out, and they might be nasty and they might be nice, but they've got to try and keep going. Oh, I can't take it, I'm crying my eyes out. All this is going to happen, right? And they get all the way through it, and then the public go, oh, we love this person so much. They're so beautiful. We are the arbiters of taste, and we know what's good, and that person's good. I'm voting for them. I don't care if it costs a load of money. I'm doing it now. And in every way, this was better than the old music business for these guys. They became the stars, so they could monetize themselves. They could monetize the fact that they are now got a monetized system to find the talent, right? The storyline will set up the artist. They are just going to have a number one straight after it. They are going to make money out of the phone calls. People are going to engage with it. They're going to be able to enjoy clubs. We're going to be able to fleece the audience in so many different ways, right? And on top of that, we're going to be on Saturday night for like 2 or 3 hours. We're going to sell every single one of those ad spots for £1 million. And we can use this, now we control TV, we can use this to push our acts. So around about 2006, 2 acts that were sort of part of the establishment, the music industry decided to put every push into them to see really maximise. So the industry is really gearing up. Those 2 artists were Robbie Williams and Alexandra Burke. Now, Alexandra Burke was like the new thing because she had actually been discovered on a talent show and she'd gone on to become relatively famous. And she got her new single coming out. Robbie Williams was more old school. He was a product of one of those cruddy boy bands that they used to manage in the 90s. And he'd had his own career and he'd actually been able to get out of there and write some decent songs and was actually now actually quite a good artist in a way. He was a talented man, but he's got a new single coming out. So they thought, how are we going to market these two? Well, look, we now have got this thing on a Saturday night. Why don't we say, we'll get Alexandra Burke represent the new, Robbie Williams representing the old, and we're going to put them out. And on Sunday, there'll be a competition to get to number one. And they ring up Robbie Williams and they go, you're in competition with Alexandra Burke. He goes, no, what are you on about? Yeah, you're in competition with her now. And Alexandra Burke goes, well, what's going on? Well, you got to beat Robbie. Well, I don't care with Robbie. I just want my single. No, there's a feud. Right, there's a feud. Okay, whatever you say, you know best. So now there's a feud. Right, who's going to get to number one? And what they're going to do is they're going to go, there's a feud. Who's going to win? And the newspapers have put this on the front all the way through. They're selling the newspapers. Everyone's going, I wonder who's going to go to number one. No one's going to go to number one. And on a Saturday night, everyone's going to sit down. They're going to follow the story. Frodo Baggins, dropping the ring in the mountain, crying, all that thing. Somebody thinks they can sing when they can't. All that's going to go on. And then in the middle of this, Robbie will perform his song. Alexandra Burke will perform her song. And then we could see the following day which one will go to number one. This is the music industry going, right, we've got our artists. We can still do it the old way. Come on, we can do it the old way. All we got to do is just go full out. This is the music industry full out. This is every single thing they've got. Every single thing they've got. Come on, we can do it. We can do it. Saturday night television, come on. Right, next day, I wonder who went to number one. Everyone's looking. It's in the newspaper. I think it was Alexandra Burke or Robbie Williams. It was definitely one of the two of them. Nobody cares. It just didn't matter. It was a non-story. Nobody remembers it. But at the time, that was the week that was. That was what was going on. The industry, and I have other inside information on this one. I got a call a couple of days later, and the industry was like going, I just don't know what to do. What do you mean? Well, they didn't sell much. They threw everything at it, but they didn't sell much. Like 10 years ago, you were just getting in the top 20, would have sold that. But Alexandra Burke got to number one. It was only like 50,000 sales. The industry suddenly realised that was gone. And at that point, the talent left. And as the person who told me this told me, he goes, all these pop songwriters are now running to CSI Miami to see if they can get some work getting their music, the incidental music for that. The talent went. It was over. And in a way, not only does this prove that the talent show was now bigger than that, but it has already signed its own doom. Is that the word? Sealed its own doom, signed its own death certificate. And at this point, I think that these talent shows changed. And I think it was like, look, forget, we got into this for the artists, It doesn't matter about the artists anymore. It's just about the television. That's where it's at. It's selling advertising space. And so the story counts. So what shall we do? Well, we need to make the story really good. Well, how are we going to do that? We need to fix it. And so things that had naturally happened in this natural setup that they'd had, right, seem to now happen more and more frequently. Have you noticed this with these talent shows now? Now, being a lecturer in music, I have had many students go on one of these. I have had auditions take place inside my college for these different shows. And I know people who've gone through it, and I know people who have been involved with it. I know people who've got really far in it, almost winning it. And I've heard 1,000 stories. And I don't want to relay these directly, but what I can pass on to you on this video is roughly what I learned. So everything I'm about to tell you now definitely happened. Right? So you will put one of these shows on and somebody will work out in front of you. And the thing is when they put these people together, they're not picking them randomly from the people who walked in. They can't do that because they have to have a demographic. All TV shows, you have to have a demographic. So there's obviously got to be a male and female. You might have to have a trans person. You've got to have a black person. You might have to have this, this, and this. But they've got other ones that they want as well, because that provides the story. So it's not that these people have talent, right, that end up in these shows. It's the fact that these people have got a story. and they know the stories they want, they will at least have one that's a bit weird and funny. They have to have that, an eccentric who's going to do Meatloaf songs and do strange dance routines. But they're anomalies. They can have a laugh at them, but they are a good singer. You're going to have the woman who's older and should have been famous, but were held back by their circumstances. You're going to have the man who's in the same thing. You're going to have two of those. You're going to have the black urban artist that might rap and they represent all that. You're going to have the one who's very, very young, right, but is super talented. You're going to have the one that's operatic, right, and doesn't quite fit in to the realm of pop music, but we really should appreciate how great they are. These are all the stories that come through. So they are not just going to have what just happened to be there that day, which was, 10 brilliant female R&B style singers. They're not just going to have that. They're going to have a whole bunch of them. That's the first thing where they fix it, right? And these people are picked, right? So these people have already worked in the industry in a lot of cases. Now, they will walk out on stage, and I know people have walked out on stage and they have said, I'm a housewife or I'm a house husband, all I've ever wanted to do is to do a gig, and I haven't got the chance, and I've really tried hard, and they've got, their clothes don't look that great. All that story is supplied, and yet that person has been around for 20 years, they're professional, they earn their living doing it, they've had hit records in other countries, they've done sessions for all sorts of other people, right? And in one case, this one guy I knew was already signed up to Simon Cowell's label, right? So there's artists out there and they're being put through. Now, if somebody comes to the audition process and they're amazing, they could take them or not take them, right? But they are picking that thing not just based upon talent, okay? Now, once it gets up and going, you could have taken on a couple of monster singers, and everyone in the audience is going, oh my God, they're so amazing. It's because they're session singers. If you are a musician, you can go and, I could ring up a mate of mine and I could say, can you get me 3 session singers? Oh, they're going to be expensive, but they're bloody amazing. And they will be amazing. They'll walk in 5.5 octaves range, sing all the high notes, sounds like Aretha Franklin. There's a million of them. You just hire them. Millions and millions of them. There's millions of incredible guitarists. There's millions of incredible drummers. The market is saturated by people who can really sing. Being able to really, really sing is not as rare as you think, right? And so you can get someone who's been in the industry. You're going to bang them in. Everyone's going to go there amazing. And at some point, you're going to do something on your TV show. Like you're going to have to, for some reason, pit them against each other. So everyone's they're 3 episodes in, they've had all the funny stuff at the start, and they're going to have the big climax when somebody wins at the end. But it's sagging now. They're just having to sing another song and judge. So let's have this sing-off, and let's put the 2 best in. You think, why have they put the 2 best in? Well, they had to because of the story, didn't they? They got to play one off of the other. And then suddenly, halfway through, one of the best singers gone. What does this mean? It means the talent show means nothing. Right, now, I firmly believe that in these talent shows, as you go, the result is still the public, because that was the genius of these modern talent shows. But if you watch them, they are so fixed on every single place all the way up. And what's happened is because the audience have been so involved in this for 20 or 30 years, they know how to play the game as well. They know when to gasp. They know when to cry. They know when to go, oh, clap, the person can sing in tune. I can't believe it. It's absolutely amazing. All right? So often, well, I have met so many people off these. These people are proper musicians. They've been in the industry and they're massively talented. They are massively talented. And these people who get up and sing, they're getting up and singing their version of like some Westlife song, because that's what the general public, but that's not what they're into. They're into this music that we like here. Right, they're into all sorts of creative music, and they play, and they're multi-instrumentalists, right? They are coming through the industry as a certain thing. And you have a situation where someone at that level, who is a virtuoso musician that can sing, is stood, and then there's some girl that cannot sing half as good as this person, does not play music, does not know the stuff that this person on stage actually knows, but they happen to have been in the right place at the right time. Probably they're from a nice posh family, and the public school they went to, their best mate got offered a job in the record industry so they could get into it, and they're sat there giving advice and saying stuff to this person that they are not qualified to say anything about. They haven't even got the sort of knowledge of the industry, albeit the arse end of the industry that Simon Cowell knows. Real artists don't come up through this, because real artists are not, it's not about whether you can sing. It's not even about whether you've got a catchy song. That is not what makes great artists. Great artists reflect the zeitgeist at the time. And they write songs that fit into that, and they represent something to the people. And they have a magneticness about them which draws people to them. And that's often based upon some sort of idiosyncrasy, or even more so, some sort of mental health issue which makes them compelling. The amount of times that I would have a brilliant singer in my course, but they were almost like a Butlins karaoke singer. They were brilliant. You know, they could stick them on with a backing track and they'd sing through, some sort of a Whitney Houston song or whatever. They'd do all the high notes and it would be really great. And you knew that the best thing they could ever do was just get some backing tracks, get around the working men's clubs and just, do that job. But then you get the other ones that their voice, they were good singers. They could carry the song, but their voice was a bit weirder and different. And when you went to this sort of, if you'd have put them through the X Factor sort of route, they wouldn't have won. Bob Dylan would never have won. Hendrix would never have won. I don't know, who was it? Robert Wyatt would never have won. Peter Gabriel would never have won. I'm trying to think. Madonna would never have won. Prince might have been able to win. He could have probably pulled that off. Aretha Franklin, well, they're all copying her anyway. It's her style they're copying, isn't it? Whitney Houston, it's her style they're copying. But Whitney Houston looked incredible, and she had a magnetic beauty, and she was just so... People don't understand how much bloody was there with Whitney Houston. But the thing with Whitney Houston is, on top of that, she had a fragility to her that was compelling. And I could see this. Some of the kids that had a different sounding voice, different approach, wore different clothes. They were just something different about them. And in their heads, they were battling. And when they got up on stage, just standing there, you felt like you had to watch them because you were worried about them. You could see that this was intense. There was an intensity to it. That is something that these talent shows are not set up to find. What they're set up to do is now to create great television, which will get audiences, which will then sell advertising space. And in doing that, what's happened to them is they are no longer something that I thought was very positive, which put music right in the center of, normal culture. It put skill on the map, which was I thought was great. It showed the processes that people do and showed what a wonderful thing it is to sing and stuff like that. All these things that I thought were very positive about it in the early days. I had a point where I was quite interested in watching it. But recently, when I put it on, it's fixed. It's fixed. The people are chosen. They're not coming through the audition process, right? They're put up against each other when they shouldn't be, and they're manipulated. And these people are not what you think they are. They're from the industry already, and they're being pushed through just like in the old days of Opportunity Knocks when the same thing went on. So that was my take on the talent show. The big league talent shows that dominate our Saturday nights. That was my take on it. If you like this, then stick a like on it. If you want to see some more stuff like this, then put a subscribe on it. I have a Patreon. You can become a free member or a paid up member. You can also financially remunerate me, I can't say that, with my PayPal tip jar link down below. You can become a membership of this channel and get to see a whole bunch of content that no one else can see, or see the videos before anyone else gets to see them. And I will be putting a few extra things once I get my head around that. I also have a thing called the Sunday Club, and the Sunday Club for me is my answer of how we challenge all this crud that's out there to keep real music alive. So if you want to become a member of the Sunday Club, that would be amazing. You can find all about that. The links are down below. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.